Okay. Okay, I'm out of control. I'm supposed to come up here and invoke, right? Settle everything down. Okay. Awesome. Nice job, guys. Yes. Sorry. Good. And then two of my favorite people just walked in. Hi, guys. Oh, okay. No, center. I'm here doing something, right? Okay. So we just simply step into this moment, acknowledging, recognizing, and bringing in to our depths of our soul that connection to the universe. That universe that always says, good morning. You are loved. You are welcomed. I'm so glad you're here. We take this energy and we just bless this center, all those who have walked through our door, the people who are about to come, those online. We bless our tech team, our kids team, our choir, our music director, our speaker. It's the perfect day. So help me anchor this by saying, and so it is. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Susan's here. Wow, it's worth closing your eyes when you pray, isn't it? Okay. Susan, would you join me? She's like, for those of you online, she's enthusiastically bounding. Yeah, she said yes. Judith, boy, this is a great day. Hi, Judith. So we're an interfaith gathering, a spiritual community that honors all teachings and all spiritual teachers. So we're gonna start this ceremony that celebrates the oneness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples and all faiths come for the one universal presence, which we call spirit. Our candle lighter this morning is Susan. So good to see you. The Tao, and so let us begin. The Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. Shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of pristine spirituality. Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. Of course, New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And of course, our last candle is the healing candle of love. And we invite you, in the stillness of your own mind, to bring to awareness the names of anyone you wish to be included in this healing flame of love and of light. And so now that our flames of faith are fully lighted, we move forward into our celebration, realizing and reaffirming that all paths lead to God. Thank you, Susan. It's so good to see you. Our sacred reading today. Anyone want to guess who wrote it? Jane Beach. My favorite, Reverend Jane Beach. And it's called Seeds of Prosperity. Every so often, I am delighted to find a coin laying on the ground, just waiting for me to notice it. As I pick it up, my thoughts turn to gratitude and I whisper, "Thank you, gracious and abundant universe, for reminding me that this coin plants a seed of prosperity in the very fertile soil of my mind, where that my thoughts are creative, I'm grateful for the abundance that's making its way to me.
Ooh. Because everybody is free because I have chosen Joy. My beautiful golden retriever, Joy. Last spring, I guess it was, or late spring, early summer, I don't know when it was, but we invited Reverend Bonnie Rose to Alaska. And Bonnie Rose came up and did the Sunday sermon, great talk, and then she did a workshop. She was just magnificent. And after Bonnie returned to the lower 48, some of the ladies here at the center started a book club to book study to review her book, Dances with Dogs. And one of the activities toward the end of the book and in their book study was a practice in random acts of kindness, of just doing random things nice to somebody for no reason, just random acts of kindness. And so they all did that. Cynthia George was part of that group, and I think the practice continues to this day of random acts of kindness. Well, about, I don't know, 10 days, 2 weeks, a couple of weeks ago, somewhere in there, Cynthia was headed out on some errands, some adventure, and she boarded the Queen Mary, that giant vehicle of hers, and takes off, and there's something wrong with the Queen Mary. It is not behaving. It sounds really, really rough. So before she did any damage to it, she pulled over to the side of the road, decided to see what's wrong, so she got out and she's got a flat tire. Well, this is Don's addition to this. The feeling that I had, tires and stuff and the Queen Mary, those were things that were in the realm of Fred, her husband of many, many years. And I know that when we go through grief and we do things, we can go along for, days and some weeks, months sometimes, and we think we're doing pretty good, and then all of a sudden you get some reminder and bang, you're right back there with that grief. And I think that maybe Cynthia was feeling that moment because flat tires are in the realm of Fred. She sat there and a pickup truck pulled in behind her. And she thought, oh no. And then a pickup truck pulled in front of her. Oh, what is this? Well, these three men got out and came up and looked at the Queen Mary, and she rolled down her window and they said, you have a flat tire. And she said, yeah, I know, and they do have a spare. She says, I think the spare's on it. And so they conferred for a moment, and then they went back and went through their pickup trucks, and one guy comes out with a compressor, and they proceed to fire that up and get enough air in that tire so that Cynthia could limp to the tire store. Well, these men were just starting up a construction company. And I tell you, I am going to predict right now that they are going to have a successful construction company because they get this idea paying it forward of just random acts of kindness. To stop for a strange lady at the side of the road and help them. No. I mean, it's like a stranger, not a strange lady. That didn't come out right.
A woman would have done a better job.
Whoa. Across the bow. But my point in all of this is that there's a circulation going on here. When we can step into random acts of kindness, somehow, some way, we are the beneficiary of random acts of kindness. Well, thank you all for coming out today. It's good to see so many of you here today, and thank you for joining us online. I'm glad to have you with us today. Thank you. Our monthly theme for this month is called The Prosperous Flow. And for those of you that have been around for I think the last 12 Octobers know that that's usually when I get up and start talking about money. Now, to those of you that are new, we do not talk about money every Sunday. But sometimes during the month of October, we do talk about money. And we started off the first week, and my talk was on the flow of abundance. And we came to the awareness that abundance is more than just dollars and cents. Abundance is more than things, that it's a lot larger than that. And we came to the realization that the core of abundance, what abundance really is, boils down to consciousness. And I came up with the 3 pillars of consciousness. Consciousness of God. Consciousness that divine spark is within each and every one of us at every moment. Even those people that we don't agree with, even those people that are maybe a little different than us, that too is an expression of the Most High. That is the consciousness. And we have the consciousness of worthiness. Sometimes it's hard for us to realize that we are worthy, that we deserve all of the goodness that the divine is waiting to give us. We are worthy. And thirdly, the consciousness of possibility. And this is where we fall into that realm of the quantum possibilities, infinite possibilities. And they go from the tiniest subatomic particle all the way through the infinite of the universe. Infinite possibilities. And then last week we had a Taizé service and did a Taizé service. And this was actually now starting to take some of the principles that we believe in and marry them with spiritual practices. And so what we had last week in the Taizé service was we had periods of meditation, periods of prayer, periods of mindfulness, all layered together with the idea of peace. And so I can only speak for myself. But I know that for me, at the end of that hour last week, I was a different person than I was when it started. I know that there maybe molecules somewhere in my body or something were different, and that there had been a fundamental change. And we get down to this idea of being able to embrace these spiritual practices of prayer, meditation, mindfulness. And in the end, we can experience more peace, more joy, more fullness and richness of our lives. And I know, for me at least, at the end of last week was a tangible, palpable difference from our practice of that Taizé service. Well, today we're going to look at the principle of circulation. Then I'm going to look at the practice of gratitude. So let's start off with the principle of circulation. Everything in the entire universe circulates. You think of the rain falling down, the gently falling down rain, and it nourishes the earth and the plants, and the excess rain that's not used by the plants trickles down into streams, and they come in together to form rivers, and finally the mighty rivers that flow into the ocean, and the water flows into the ocean where it is warmed by the sun, and it evaporates and goes back up and forms clouds, which then blow over the land and once again condense and fall into the rains. Our very blood circulates within our bodies. Oxygen, we inhale the air, and oxygen is absorbed by our blood and is taken to the cells, and they go down and do their things, and we exhale carbon dioxide. And the plants of the earth reach in and they utilize the carbon dioxide and they emit oxygen back. So we have circulation with plants and animals. And even random acts of kindness are circulated and come back. As many of you know, I really appreciate the parables of Jesus. Jesus, the great teacher, teaches with parables. He taught with these parables. And to me, I can tell when there's a real lesson to be learned when it doesn't make sense. You know, I think probably the most common parable of all, the prodigal son. And I always, used to think, what if I was the son that stayed home, worked and everything else, and meanwhile my brother that went out and wasted half of dad's fortune, and then he came back and he gets this giant feast thrown for him, and I've been here working all along and I don't even get a skinny chicken. It doesn't seem fair. So within that, that doesn't sound quite right. I wouldn't feel that. To me, then, that's a big bell going off. There's a lesson to be learned here. What is the lesson? What is this story trying to tell me? Well, they have another one, and it's called the parable of the talents. I don't think they had highlighters back in those days. And so instead of highlighting something or putting it in bold, we get these bells. Something's not right here. Well, that's what happens with the parable of the talents. And just, I've told this thing, I don't know, dozens of times. But there was a wealthy landowner and decided he had to leave. He was going on a big trip. And so he called in 3 of his servants. And he called in the first servant and he said, "You seem to be a pretty good old boy. I'm going to give you 5 talents for you to take care of while I'm gone." And a talent is a weight, a measure of weight. And so a talent of gold, I even did the math one time and figured it out, but it's like over $250,000. And so he gave him a lot of money. He gave him something really valuable to take care of while he was gone. So then he called in his second servant and he said, "You seem like a pretty good old boy. I'm going to give you 2 talents, and I want you to take care of those while I'm gone." And then he called in a third guy and he says, "I'm not too sure about you, but I'm going to give you 1 talent, and I want you to take care of that while I'm gone." Well, the first guy, he took his 5 talents. As soon as the businessman left, the landowner left, he took his 5 and he bought some spices with it and he did some other stuff. And then he traded and he expanded his wealth. And then he had things that were even more wealthy. And then he took his 5 talents and took it in to be worth 10 talents. And the second guy, he thought that was a pretty good idea, so he traded and he did stuff too. He bought some spice and he bought some other things, and then he traded those, and he was able to increase his value, and he took his 2 talents and he turned them into 4 talents. Now the third guy, he only had 1 talent, but you know, he says, this property owner, this big businessman, this guy, he's pretty ruthless. He harvests where he didn't sow. I don't want to mess with this guy, and I don't want to risk buying a bunch of spices and have the bottom fall out of the spice market, and I'm here left with nothing. I didn't want to go, So he says, I know what I'm going to do. So he got an old Folgers can, sealed that baby up, and took his talent and went out and buried it in the backyard. Well, the master's gone for a few years, and he comes back and he calls in the first guy, and he says, well, I gave you 5 talents. How did they do? And he said, oh, it was great. He said, I did that, and now here's 10 talents for you. And the landowner said, well, that's awesome. You are a faithful servant. I have given you a little, and you did a great deal with it. You're going to get even more. So he called in the second guy. Same thing. How did you do? And he said, well, I took the 2 talents, I turned them into 4. Great job. You're a faithful servant. I'm going to give you even more responsibility. And then he called in a guy that only 1 talent. And Alan said, I wasn't too sure about this, and I wasn't going to take a chance on that, so I buried him in this old Folgers can in the backyard. So here's your 1 back. And so the master said, well, you lazy bum. He says, you could have at least put it in the bank and got interest on it. You bought a few CDs or something, but you didn't do diddly. You buried it in the backyard. You are a worthless bum. I take that back. I'm taking that talent away. I'm going to give it to the guy with 10. And once again, I thought, if I knew this guy was such a badass, I might have just made sure I didn't lose any too. I didn't have a whole lot of faith in the spice market anyhow. So what is the lesson? What is the lesson in talents? And I love these about the parables, because there is no right and wrong. This is what it is for you. And so as I thought about that, as I pondered the parable of the talents, what came up for me is, what did the guy with only 1 talent do wrong? He didn't circulate. He held on to his talent, and he didn't share it. He didn't invest it. He didn't do anything with it. And he didn't circulate it. The guys that actually came out ahead are the ones that gave it away, that circulated with it. They bought spices. They did the other things that it took to do with it. And that's just my interpretation. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. Doesn't make any difference. It's all right, because that's what I came up with. Ernest Holmes. This is one of my favorite quotes of all, of Ernest Holmes. It is only as we allow the divine current to flow through us on and out that we really express life. And that divine current, it can be money and things, but it can be other stuff too. It can be random acts of kindness. It is only as we allow the divine current to flow through us on and out that we really express life. Or as the author of Matthew said a little bit more distinctly, freely ye have received, freely give. So I am asking today that we step into the flow. We talk about, our theme is the prosperous flow, and today we're talking, the title of my talk is The Flow of Circulation. So what is the flow? Well, I'm learning from Kaleem. So we've got the flow. F.
Yeah.
If you're going to give freely. I don't want anybody to give out of a sense of guilt or a sense of, no, it has to be freely. Give freely. L, lovingly. Do so lovingly. And I've told this 100 times too, but I think back to Reverend Nancy writing out her checks and sends out her check to N-Star. Oh, thank you for the warmth in this house on this cold winter's day. Writes out her check to Chugach. Oh, thank you for the electricity for these lights so I can see to write the check. She gave lovingly. So it's important that we give lovingly. Oh, ongoingly. Now, I don't think that's a word, but I needed an O. And Kaleem didn't tell me what to do there, so I guess I'm stuck. Ongoingly. It doesn't, you don't want to just give it once and do it one and done and be out the door. No, you want to make it a habit. It's the random acts of kindness repeated over and over and over. Ongoingly. And then lastly, wisely. Wisely. You don't want to be dumb with your circulation. You don't want to, if the master gave you 5 talents, you don't want to take them to Las Vegas and put it on a hard 8 and expect that you're going to, quadruple or more the money. Do it wisely. Stay away from the Broncos. Well, there are years they did good, but we don't, that's all. We don't gamble.
Follow basketball.
Okay, let's see. Wisely, yes. Flow. Freely, lovingly, ongoingly, and wisely. How's Matthew? Okay, so we move on to the second point. Ooh, we are late. Gratitude. I tried to come up with a good story for gratitude. And this will have to do. But there was a neighborhood. There were all Catholics. They all got along well together. They all went to the same parish. They were Catholics. And one of their members moved away and another guy moved into the house. Well, he happened to be a Baptist. And everything seemed to be okay. They got along well. He was a nice guy. And, it was a pretty good deal until Lent. Well, all of the Catholics were eating tuna for Lent. They gave up red meat. And a Baptist, he didn't care. Well, it's spring, it's Easter, time for the first, outdoor barbecue of the year, and he fires up the grill, and he's got a couple of big old ribeyes out there on his grill going, and the aroma of that steak floods across the neighborhood. The Catholic boys are in there eating their cold tuna. Somebody says, I can't stand it. Do you smell that? So the guys in the group got together and said, we got to do something. I can't take another day of this. This guy's out there grilling and we're in here with our cold tuna. Somebody says, well, what do you do? Well, let's convert him. What could go wrong with that idea? So they all get together and they approach him and they convince him of how good it'd be if they joined the Catholic Church. And so yeah, I guess so. I don't care. Yeah, if you want me to be a Catholic, I'll be a Catholic. Oh, that's great. So they took him down to the priest and told the priest, this guy, he used to be a Baptist, but he wants to join the Catholics. This is great. And the priest says, oh, thank you, God. This is absolutely wonderful. This is a miracle. Look, we had miracles already here today. And it's a miracle. And so the priest takes a little bit of holy water and he sprinkles it on the guy and he says, oh, what a miracle. Thank you, God. This man was a Baptist. He was born a Baptist. He was raised a Baptist. But now he's a Catholic, and he sprinkles more holy water. He's a Catholic, and everybody cheers, and everything's good. Till the next Friday afternoon. And all the guys are in, and they've got their cold tuna dinners. And oh, the aroma of that steak is just going all throughout the neighborhood. And all the guys are going, wait a minute. One guy called his buddy and says, do you? Yes, I smell it too. Well, let's conference in. Probably a Zoom meeting of some kind. I don't know. They call him in and what are we going to do? All of us are going crazy at the aroma of this steak coming through. And he says, well, we've got to approach him and remind him that he's a Catholic now and he's supposed to be eating cold tuna. So they got together and they started approaching. He was out there on his deck and he had his squirt bottle. You know, he squirt the coals in case they start, burst into flame. So he's got his thing there and he sees them coming. He says, oh, they're going to be complaining. I don't know. So he thought about it for a minute. And just as they get there, he closes his eyes and he says, oh, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for the miracle before me. This is absolutely wonderful. Thank you, God. And he squirts his steak again with his thing, and he says, for this meat was born a cow, and it was raised a cow, but now it's a fish. See, it's all about gratitude. It's gratitude. Gratitude is the fourth step in affirmative prayer and spiritual mind treatment, as we call it, the fourth step. And I think the idea is that when you are grateful for something, it is really hard not to accept it. In spite of the walls that you may have, the unworthiness, all that falls aside, because when you're grateful for it, it's really hard not to accept it. So I have come up with 3 levels of gratitude. The first is entry level, and that is where we are simply thankful for what we have. And that's a wonderful place to start, and if that's where you stay, that's wonderful too. That's pretty much where I live. I am grateful for all that I have. Then there's the advanced level, and that's where we're grateful for life itself. Well, Shirley May painted that perfect today. Asked her how she's doing. She said she was grateful to be among the living, which drew a real contrast to the other alternative. And then the master level of gratitude is where we are grateful for the unseen good, where we are grateful to be the recipient of the random acts of kindness. Cynthia got to the tire store, and not being a tire expert, she was a little intimidated by maybe having to be grilled about tread designs and all the things. But she didn't get that at all. She had a very kind person with knowledge of tires who made a recommendation of which tire would be best for the Queen Mary, and was able to get her and on her way with a new set of tires. And so to keep the flow freely, lovingly, ongoingly, wisely, Cynthia wrote thank you notes to the construction company and to the tire company. And the whole story is actually bigger than that, but we don't have enough time. But has to do with the turn signals. When we put these principles, these things that we talk about, together with our spiritual practices, can make our lives better. And so during this time of year, we've got the permanent fund. I think probably everybody has it by now. I'd like to invite you to step into the flow. And this is the time of our pledge campaign. In the seat backs in front of you have a card. And it's just a little statement of intent to support our center financially. I invite you to take it home to pray over it, return it next week, or if you want to do it now, that's fine too. You can throw it in a basket. If you're headed to Arizona, you may want to get it today. This gives our leadership council an opportunity to have an idea of what we're going to have for revenue for the next year. But that really isn't the only thing that this is all about. This is what this really is about. And for those of you with commitment issues, there might be somebody in there with commitment issues, I don't know. You don't have to worry about, because this is a commitment to yourself. This is a commitment to yourself to stay ongoingly in that law of circulation. And so, and this is also PFD month, and Mrs. Fleming's off the lower 48 again. I don't have an activity plan or whatever it is, but we traditionally have something for the PFD club. If you want to give a historical tithe, 10% of your permanent fund dividend, if you make a donation, it can be online, it can be however you may want to do it. You write a check, cash money, just write your name on $170. I think the permanent fund was $1,702. We'll let the two go to somewhere. So $170, and we will have some type of activity. I don't know if it'll be another murder mystery, but we'll have something if you want to join that. And she said to mark that contribution as PFD. I don't think there will be too many people do their monthly or weekly things of 170, but a 170 alone will be enough to do it. So mark it PFD. Let's see, pledge campaign. You're making a commitment to yourself. So we better wrap this up. We're almost noon. I was searching for a good way to end today's talk, and I had this awesome story, but it's going to have to be next week. Author by the name of Kent Nerberg, and he and I are actually exchanging emails now. And I'm going to give this story next week of a cab ride that really illustrates a lot of these points. But I was trying to come up with this, a conclusion or a takeaway for today. As you know, many of my stories come from guideposts. And in the back of guideposts, they have a little thing called the family room. And frequently it's sort of a Paul Harvey, the rest of the story moment in the family room. And this one had a thing in there that just really grabbed me. And it's a story about a guy, Lucky Chuck. And Lucky Chuck was diagnosed with a unoperable brain tumor, and Lucky Chuck didn't have too much longer to spend with us. And this is Lucky Chuck's story, but the author of this thing wrote, and he said, "He was hilarious. He corrected my grammar and poked fun at me for being a highfalutin doctor. Lucky Chuck's most important insight: your circumstances don't have to determine your peace of mind and joy. Your circumstances don't need to define your peace of mind and joy. And so that's what I want to leave you with today. Regardless of your circumstances, you can step into the law of circulation. You can step into all of this. And, oh, I love it when a plan comes together. You know, I had that all done. It's here at the bottom of the page. I looked down at the bottom of the page, and here's a quote from a totally different thing. Doesn't have anything to do with it. At 12-step meetings, miracles happen every week. Your financial support of our center enables us to hold 4 different distinct support groups every week. And these miracles happen every week right here at this center. Not only in the meetings, but here too. And so with the awareness of all of that, I invite my colleagues, the prayer partners, the practitioners to join me in holding the congregation, to holding each and every person who is going through this thing called life and having the ups and downs and the hills and valleys. I invite you to recognize the power and the presence of a power that's greater than we are. A power that is with each and every one of us at every moment. And so there is that within us which is greater than any obstacle that we may perceive in our lives. Whether it be health, it makes no difference, because that infinite presence, which is God, has never been sick, never will be sick. And there is that part of you that is divine. There is that part of you that is greater than any disease or broken leg or stubbed toe. It makes no difference. You are greater. It makes no difference, because we know that in spite of the circumstances, that your joy, your happiness, that part of you that is being fulfilled is greater than any perceived lack and limitation. And when we feel a sense of separation from one another, whether it's political beliefs or religious beliefs or anything else, we can never be truly separate from one another, because we are all connected. We are all made of the same God stuff. We are all brothers and sisters in this thing called life. And so we can just give thanks. We give thanks for our awareness of the power and the presence of God. We give thanks for the joy that is life. So I just release my words to the working of a law that allows this to be manifest in the lives of each and every one of us, now and forever. All praises be unto the one, and so it is. Thank you, choir. You guys are awesome. And Aaron, I don't know how you do it. I mean, God's in everything. You know, we could just dump the sermon, come in, sing a few songs, and we can get out of here a half hour early. Thank you. Really, really well done today. And they sound heavenly. For the people online, I really feel sorry for you, because you're listening over these inexpensive computer speakers, and they sound great. Want to recognize 3 people that are at least active in the chat room today. Tony Shannon, Chris B. from New Jersey. Must be Karen Valera Sherman. That's a Karen. Which could be, there's lots of Karen. I don't know about Karen. I don't know, but it is almost noon. We get it. Time to go. All right. Affirmation. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.
I get to talk to you, Rev, about having to follow them. as we close today. As we leave, conscious of our worthiness and the endless possibilities around us. Let us circulate our talents, whether it be in the form of singing or teaching, perhaps writing, or maybe, Judith, cooking fish. Or perhaps a talent of gold. Let us step into those random acts of kindness, whether it be giving or receiving. Freely, lovingly, outgoingly, and wisely. Help me anchor this by saying, and so it is.